Hey guys, it has been such a long time since I have made a video. I kind of put this channel on the back burner for a while and just focused on a lot of things that were going on in our life. I ended up pregnant and we had our precious little baby boy on December 21st at 1:43 a.m. He weighed 7 pounds and 15 ounces and he was 21 inches long. And I wanted to share our son Jackson's birth story with you today. So I started having contractions on December 19th. They were intense. I started at around 6 a.m. I woke up just in horrible pain. They were about 6 to 7 minutes apart, lasting 1 minute each. And I thought, oh man, this baby's coming. I assumed that the 19th was the day I was going to have him, and I'm sure my dad was super excited because that was his birthday. But it turns out I had a lot longer road ahead before he would actually be in our arms. So the 19th we decided, okay, we're just gonna take this and use it as a regular day. It was a Saturday, so normally we do a lot of our errands, we do grocery shopping, we do laundry, and so we just started to focus on those things. And it was extremely hard to focus because I was in a lot of pain, and my contractions were fluctuating between 5 to 7 minutes, like throughout the entire day. So we went to Trader Joe's, and I can remember being in the parking lot and just praying, God, please do not let my water break in the store. Let me get my groceries done, get home, put them away, and then my water can break. So I was under the assumption that my water could break at any time. And we went to Trader Joe's, we went to Target, we came home, we did laundry, and I made lunch. And around the time that I made lunch, they started to get intense, like to the point where I was buckling at the knees. And I can just remember thinking, man, this pain is a lot worse than I anticipated. So if this is bad, I can only imagine what the rest of this labor and delivery is going to be like. So after we got done having lunch, we kind of just laid around the house, and we didn't do much. I just kind of just focused on the pain. I was singing a lot of worship music. I was watching and reading birth stories and birth blogs and different things, just trying to get an idea of what to expect and what was coming. And around 6:30 p.m. I had our sweet neighbor came down to pray with us, and I can just remember feeling a lot of peace. When she came down and her daughter prayed over us, I felt like, okay, God, I'm ready. Whenever this process needs to begin, I'm ready for it to start. And by this time, the contractions had gone down to anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So in my mind, okay, this is getting serious. We need to call the hospital. So we called the hospital. They said, okay, of course, please come in. We'll take you to triage. We'll check you. We'll see where you're at, and then we'll kind of evaluate what to do from there. So we grabbed all of our bags, and we way overpacked. And then we got in the car and we drove to triage, and let me tell you, that car ride was intense. It was not fun. Laboring in a moving car when you're cramped is not fun. We got to triage. They checked us in. We went upstairs, and we waited for a little bit, and they had the dimmed lights. It was really peaceful. And it was just kind of Jack and I hanging out for a little while. And then the nurse and resident came, they checked me. And of course, I was only 1 centimeter dilated. What? I thought I was way more dilated than that. The pain that I experienced, only being 1 centimeter, my mind was blown. And I knew at that moment that this was going to be a long, long labor. So I decided to have my membrane stripped, and they said, we're going to send you home. There's no point in having you stay here and walk around for 2 hours because we don't think you're going to really hit a stage that we need you to be at before. So we want you to come back and call once your contractions are 2 minutes apart, lasting 1 minute each. So it was depressing, but we went home. We decided to go to bed. It was late. By the time we got home, it was like 10 o'clock. I tried to sleep. I dozed off a little bit on and off. And Jack was out like a light. And I woke up at like around 12:40 and my contractions were so painful. I couldn't even really lay down because they just hurt so bad. So I kind of propped myself up on the pillow. I was singing worship music again and just trying to soothe myself and thinking through all the different birth books that I read. I read hypnobirthing. I tried to, work through that and just have a mindset of calming and peaceful. And I just remember laying there thinking, oh God, please, please help me get through this and let me do this process naturally. Don't let me cave in and get pain medication. And that was one of the things that was most important. I really wanted to try this unmedicated. And it's a good thing that I labored at home mostly, because if I didn't labor at home, I probably would have opted in for, it would have been easier for me to opt in and get an epidural. But we decided to stay home for a little while because my contractions had kind of gone to ranging from 5 to 10 minutes apart. They were really slowing down and I started to get a little discouraged, but my contractions were intense and they were lasting 2 minutes long. And I spent a lot of the morning just soaking in the bathtub, asking Jack to refill it with hot water. And I laid there and I cried and I prayed and just hoped that I could get through this. And it was around lunchtime when I decided to send Jack out to go get us some food because I needed some time to be by myself, to mentally prepare for what was going to happen and to give Jack a break, because I know mentally he was in a place where it was really difficult for him to see me in that kind of pain and not be able to do anything. So when he left, I ended up just crying and praying, and then I called my mom. And in that moment I really wanted my mom. I wanted her to be there. I wanted her comfort, and I needed somebody to understand what I was experiencing, because there was only so much I could really explain to Jack what I was experiencing. And he was wonderful. He did everything he could. He massaged my back, he rubbed my hair out of my face, and just was there for me completely. And he was such a huge help, and he helped me get through a lot of pain within that day. And our family started getting a little bit worried because it was about 2 o'clock. I was still having a lot of contractions, and my contractions just were not going down to 2 minutes. They were staying roughly about 5 minutes, and but they were so intense that I was just buckling at the knees. So our families encourage us, call again, tell them how long you've been in labor, and just let them know that you really want to get checked. So we called, they asked us to come in, and as soon as I got checked, they were like, wow, you have been laboring, you're at 4 centimeters. And they decided to go ahead and keep us, thankfully, because we lugged all of our stuff back up there. And they gave us a room. We were in the room for a while, and the doctor came in and she's like, I don't think this process is going to go very quickly. We decided to take you, but I think that you would have been better to go home and just kind of labor. But we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to come back in an hour and I'm going to check you and we'll go from there. So after some intense laboring and just kind of walking around the room, talking to our nurse, and just kind of getting ourselves into a deeper focus, she came back in, she checked me, I was at 6 centimeters, and she said, okay, well, this process is going a lot faster than I thought. You're at 6 centimeters, but you're bulging 7. Your water bag is bulging, so we can break your water, and it can kind of create more intense contractions, and you might be able to go further, or you can just kind of wait it out and see what your body does and let your water break naturally. I said, okay, please break my water, because I'm ready to get this process jump started. I want to get through this pain. I want to have our son in our arms. And she broke her water, and it felt like I was peeing myself, but it was nice to not have that bulging water because that pressure was so intense. But once my water broke, she said, okay, I'll be back in another hour. Feel free to go hop in the shower and let the warm water hit you. And I did. So I went for an hour. in the shower, and I had Jack running the hot water down my back, and I was in so much pain, but I didn't want to break down and get the epidural because I figured I've already made it this far. I can make it the rest of the way. I really want to make it the rest of the way. So every 15 minutes, our nurse would come in and she would check the baby's heart rate, make sure everything was okay with me. And at one point, I realized I was reaching a transitional period because when she came in to check me, I just kind of collapsed a little bit, and she hopped in the shower with me and just grabbed onto me, and she held me, and she just swayed with me in the water, and I just thought that was beautiful. This nurse was willing to get soaking wet and to just sway with me and be there for me. And Jack was soaking wet as well because he had been sitting in the bathroom just spraying me down with the water. And it was nice having my husband and such a compassionate nurse help me through that pain. I decided to make my way back to the bed. By this time I collapsed on the floor and I had trouble getting up because I was buckling at the knees with pain. So they picked me up, got me over to the bed, and I said, I need to get checked. We had our doctor come back in. I was at an 8, almost 9 centimeters, and I was ready to push. So my doctor said, okay, go ahead. If you feel like you want to push, go ahead and push. So I started pushing on my back because that was the only way that I felt comfortable being in that time. That was the only way that I could position my body that didn't hurt extremely bad. I ended up having a cervical lip, so the doctor was trying to help me get the cervical lip out of the way so I could have the baby. And I thought, great, I'm going to start pushing and I'm going to have this baby in 5 minutes. Try 3 hours. 3 hours later, I was still pushing. I did not have any epidural or any medication. I did opt in for the nitrous oxide, so I was breathing in the nitrous and just trying to, take the edge off a little bit. That made me feel really loopy, and I still felt every ounce of the pain. It just made everybody sound a little silly, like Donald Duck is the best way I can explain it. And the pain was still intense, but I was able to process it better because my mind was able to leave some of that mental stuff behind. And he just wasn't coming, and they felt around, they checked me, and it turns out he had flipped sunny side up, so he was not able to move down my birth canal. And they basically gave me an option: you can either keep on pushing or you can have a C-section. And by this time I said, give me the C-section. I can't do this any longer. My heart was broken, and I was just so sad that, my dream of having my baby naturally, vaginally, without pain medication was coming to an end, and I was ending up with the one thing that scared me the most, and that was a C-section. I had not prepared for it because all through my pregnancy I said, C-sections are an option. I read every natural childbirth book that I possibly could, thinking that I could avoid having a C-section, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. And I tried for 40 hours of pushing with, not pushing. I tried for 40 hours unmedicated. I pushed for 3 long, hard hours. And then I had the anesthesiologist come in, and when he was talking to me, I couldn't even listen to him. I couldn't even process what was about to happen. I didn't even want to think about the needle that was going into my back, or that my belly was about to get cut open. I just wasn't ready. So I checked out mentally, and I remember them handing me a paper and signing a paper and just begging them, please, just let's get this process started. I want this pain to go away. I want to see my baby. So they came in, they took me away, and I remember not wanting to open my eyes. I kept my eyes shut the entire time, and I knew I had entered the operating room when the air felt so cold. Like, it was immediately, it went from warm to freezing cold, and it smelled sterile, and it was bright, and even with my eyes closed, there was just such a brightness. And I remember thinking, I'm scared. I don't know what's gonna happen, and I prayed that, God, please protect me, because I don't know what's about to happen. And Jack wasn't there, so I felt kind of lonely. Other than my nurse, she was there, and she they sat me up on the table, and she just held my face, and she was saying, Brittany, you can do this. You're strong. You can get through these pains. And once that medicine kicks in, you're going to be so relaxed. And she just said, just be very still, be very still. So she held on to me while they were getting my epidural or my spinal block ready. And they had a resident doing my spinal block, and they took her 3 times to get the spinal block right. So I was poked and prodded for 3 times while going through some intense contractions. And finally, the feeling of just relief, once that spinal block kicked in, I started feeling numbingness in my toes. I don't know if numbingness is a word. I started feeling numbing in my toes, and it spread all through my body, and I just collapsed. And it was just a huge relief, and I finally felt, okay, I'm about to see my son for the first time. And I was emotional, and I was scared, and I asked them, please bring my husband in, because at this point my husband still had not come in yet. And they said, okay, he's gonna be here in a minute. They strapped my arms down out like this, and I just felt so trapped. It was scary to have your arms strapped down to a table, and to just be left vulnerable like that. I had no feeling in my lower body, and I was shaking uncontrollably. I was cold, I was shaking, I was scared. They said the shaking was a mixture of being scared, but also the anesthesia that they had given me. And when Jack finally came in, that was the first time that I had opened my eyes. The entire time I was too scared to look around the operating room, because I was afraid I was going to see what they were going to cut me open with. I was afraid I was going to see things that would make me even more scared. So once Jack came in, I felt safe enough to look over at him and just lock eyes with him. And he was my safe place in that moment. And within a few minutes, it felt like they had not even cut me open yet. We heard his sweet little cry for the first time. It was the most beautiful experience of my life. I looked up at my husband, and my husband was crying. I was crying. And the first question I asked was, does he have hair? For some reason, that was the question that I felt like I needed to ask. And the doctor yelled back, yeah, Brittany, he has a lot of hair. You did such a great job. I'm so proud of you. And our nurse ran over, grabbed Jack's camera, and ran and took pictures of him right after he came out, after he was getting cleaned up and his umbilical cord cut. And they brought him over swaddled up, and I just remember them handing him to Jack and seeing him for the first time. He was beautiful. He was swollen, but he was beautiful. He had a little cone head because all of my pushing made him have a pretty deformed head, but they said don't worry about that, his head will be normal, he's gonna be a perfect little baby, just give it a day or 2. And Jack leaned him down, and I was able to kiss him for the first time, and I thought, this can't be real, this can't be mine, this is my son. And I just can't believe, I can't grasp that. It was a beautiful experience, and I think that, even though I wasn't able to have my unmedicated vaginal birth that I wanted, I was looking at the beautiful baby that my body had created for 9 months long. It didn't matter at that point that I was not able to have my natural birth, because Jackson was here and Jackson was safe, and that's all that mattered. Looking back now, yeah, I get kind of sad when I look at my scar. It took me 2 weeks to be able to look at my scar for the very first time. But I know that it's worth it, and I know that one day I'll look at the scar and I'll feel love, because that's how my baby came into this world. And I think it's important that we recognize that, yeah, it's painful. What we go through is intense, and you know, it's just as intense as a vaginal birth, if not more, because there's a lot of emotional healing you have to go through. You know, your body's being cut open, your organs are being moved around, and your baby's being pulled out of you. And it's a major operation. You know, there's a lot of danger within it, and I was very lucky, and both Jackson and I were healthy. We recovered very fast, and I was able to breastfeed right away and have skin-to-skin time, and they really made sure that I was well taken care of. I am very thankful for the nurses and the doctors and my husband, and I'm just so thankful that he's here. So like I said, 40 hours of labor, 3 hours of intense pushing, and a C-section later, and our sweet little Jackson Phillip was born at 1:43 a.m. on December 21st. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you did like it, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And I will be doing monthly updates here pretty soon. Thanks guys. Bye.